In 21 days, President Bwala Tinubu's administration will clock 1 year in office. How far has the president gone with some of his economic policies, anti-corruption war, bilateral agreements, foreign trips to bring investors into the country, and his attempt to give Nigerians the promised renewed hope? Joining me to examine this is lawyer and public affairs analyst Daniel Bwala. Daniel Bwala joins me live from the UK. Mr. Bwala, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good evening to your viewers.
Indeed. Let's begin this conversation on a personal front, and I'm sure you're used to these questions already. You were with the APC, you then moved to PDP for the last election as spokesperson for the Anticorruption campaign organization. And now it does seem you're on your way back to your former party from the body language we've seen recently. But let's talk about your recent tweet. There's a tweet of yours that talked about the ability of Mr. President to govern from anywhere in the world, whether or not the vice president is in the country. And it's seen by many as a response to an initial tweet by a former principal. That has gotten quite a lot of reactions as we speak. I don't know if you take time to read these reactions yourself, but what do you make of how many have responded to your decision to support this government? Some have shared old videos of your strong criticisms of Mr. President in the past. Others say you have become spokesperson for both the APC and PDP. I think I read one comment that actually said you were actually an APC mole in the PDP presidential campaign last year. How do you react to these comments?
Actually, you have asked me close to 9 questions altogether. Let me try. Some of them have been answered before, but let me just say that we have, Nigeria, people are suffering under multi-dimensional poverty. You have the last election, which was characterized by hate speech and bigotry, which the campaign of the candidate from Labour Party introduced, where you find that a lot of his followers, which quite frankly, if you ask me, there are a few of them, some of them are my friends, we share different views, we relate and we, oppose each other. But a greater number of the people who push for him are agitators. They are secessionists. I will call them Biafran agitators who happen to dominate the social media. And therefore, if you look at their engagement, there is nothing that appeals to them. For them, if you ask them, it's for us to wake up Nigeria tomorrow morning and see that there is no Nigeria. So I don't actually focus on those. So even when I see reaction that they say Nigerians say this person said this, I filter. You see, because life, you have to be able to know how you focus on things that matter. What matters to us as a country now, how do we advance Nigeria? That's the most important thing. Election is ended. Yes, I worked under Atiku. Yes, I was critical of President Bwala Tinubu. On the other side, as a member of the opposition, it is the rules of engagement in politics. When you market your product, you demarket the other product. But you will not find a single comment from the beginning to the ending where I came down on the personality of the president. But when people even talk, they should have known that before I even went to PDP, I was Asiwaju Bola Tinubu's diehard supporter. I was, even in APC, I belonged to the camp that is apologists to Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, which was the reason why I worked with Comrade Adams Oshomole. And when the attack was so much, I decided to rather go down with him than to betray him when the opportunity called for me to walk away from him. So this is the foundation. In the primaries of President Bwala Tinubu, we played the major role in advancing his cause at a time when even some of the people you could say who have been his political godsons turned their backs away from them. But today he's not looking at them with bad eyes because that is politics. What I think Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the president, has done, which has now set him apart, is that rather than looking at politics from the prism of bitterness and unforgiveness, he looked at politics from the prism of winning, winning engagement. And that's why you see him keep winning, even people in the opposition, day by day by day by day. But that's not the focus. What we are focusing, my brother, is Nigeria. How do we advance the country? How do we alleviate the sufferings of the people? This is where President Bwala Tinubu is focused on.
And we're going to touch on that very quickly. We're going to talk on governance and quite a number of things you also spoke about recently. But correct me if I'm wrong, you're still a card-carrying member of the PDP, right?
No.
Oh, no. That's
Yes.
amazing. The last time I saw an interview of yours, you said you're still a member, but that your soul and spirit isn't with the PDP. So you resigned your membership?
I challenge you to go and check their register whether you see my name.
All right. So if it's true that you're returning to the APC, do you think that the party will trust you, given how close you were before leaving the party?
Whether they trust me or not is immaterial to me. The most important thing is I made a decision to support President Bwala Tinubu. He trusts me. He gives attention to me. He listens to me. He encourages me. And that to me is more than what you can ask for. There are people who are even in the government, appointed by the government. They didn't enjoy such privilege. So I am not looking at politics from the prism of wanting to please everybody. The most important thing is your conscience and your works. Whenever I commit to a cause, you cannot see a percentage out. All of my focus and everything will be in. Even the fiercest critics will know I'm in. That is how I made the decision and commitment to support President Bwala Tinubu. So what anybody else says, whether from PDP or even APC, will not move me. If President Bwala Tinubu tomorrow says, Bwala, I don't need your support, that's a different thing. But the person I made a decision to support, he encourages me, he gives me attention. That is the most important thing to me. It's more than Premier League trophy to me.
All right. Well, by the way, you've met with him twice now, and we'll probably talk about that shortly as well.
3 times, actually.
Oh, 3 times. That's amazing. Perhaps you will tell us a few things to discuss in the course of this conversation. But Mr. President is considered one of the most influential politicians on the continent before he emerged president last year. And we are seeing how that is impacting opposition politics as we know it in Nigeria. For instance, one of the biggest stakeholders in the PDP is now a member of his cabinet. I'm wondering what you think about the quality of political opposition under this administration. I remember speaking with the Benue APC Publicity Secretary last week, and he mentioned unequivocally that the Benue PDP will support President Tinubu in 2027 if some conditions do not change. Do you think that the Tinubu political stature has changed the status quo as we know it as regards opposition politics in Nigeria?
So what President Bwala Tinubu is using, some people say soft power, but he's using the power of engagement, the war of attrition, and the capacity to engage. Now, as I speak to you today, you are only mentioning Benue. But I can tell you that you probably record will show the chairman of PDP Governors Forum, who is the governor of Bauchi, he has declared his support to President Bwala Tinubu. The key leaders in that party, on recent time, you have seen a lot of them who have come out and said they are supporting President Bwala Tinubu. You know, the intriguing thing about President Bwala Tinubu is that there are some who are not even saying they are leaving their party, but they said that 2024, 5, 6, 7, and to the second term of President Bwala Tinubu, they are supporting President Bwala Tinubu. Now, did President Bwala Tinubu use any coercion? Certainly no. And this is why, like you said, it sets him apart because politics is about engagement. Politics is about collective and national interest. And politics, more than anything else, is about showing that you care for the people you engage and talk with. And that this is what, so that I know for a fact, God keeping President Bwala Tinubu alive and well, his second term is almost done, guaranteed. But I'm not suggesting that for anybody to be overexcited or to be relaxed. But I'm telling you, if you're judging based on what you are seeing around all political parties, let me even say, before the end of the first term of President Bwala Tinubu, Peter Obi is going to throw his support to President Bwala Tinubu. Just watch as the trend goes. And this is politics.
What a prediction.
Yes, because there is a unanimous agreement that power should go to the South and that the North has had 8 years. Now, President Bwala Tinubu has won and he's doing the first term. But by the time he is concluded, even the greater part of the Northern people will prefer that he finish the second term so that if power goes to the North, they believe he should be able to stay for 8 years. It will not be sensical after 4 years for them to do everything possible to move it back.
All right.
But politics is not even about minus and plus. It's about engagement. That's why it is too early to even talk about political processes We should talk about governance.
I agree
we
with
talk
you,
about the needs
Mr.
of the
Bwala.
Nigerian people.
Because we have a very short time, let's move away from politics and touch on the economy, or perhaps we should begin with the anti-corruption effort in the past year, because you seem to have been quite vocal on that. I've heard your fair analysis on how AFCC has fared with the Bobrisky and Yahya case. But without going into the details of all of that, are you saying nothing has really changed with these agencies, or particularly the AFCC, even under this administration?
So it is not about administration, it's about the agency of government. Because although I know that agencies of government are offshoot of the executive powers, but if you have seen how the president has remained neutral in the past weeks and months in terms of allowing agencies of government to function, so if
corruption agencies have had on high-profile corruption cases in the past, and if things are going to change anytime soon. Mr. Bwala, are you back now? The EFCC has a track record of not adequately prosecuting high-profile cases, in the past years, and it is not limited to any administration. One would think that it should be different under this administration, because it's why we change government every 4 years. Don't you agree?
I agree, and that's why I told you, because the chairman is a lawyer, there's a law that is expected of him. The reason why EFCC over the years have not succeeded in getting conviction on high-profile cases is because EFCC focused more on media and drama than in actual case. Because the justice system that we practice in Nigeria is that even if you have a volume of allegation against an accused person, he is presumed innocent until he's proven guilty. The person who has the burden of proof is the prosecution. The standard of proof is beyond reasonable doubt. And every element constituting the offense in the charge must be proven. You must be able, for example, in the case of Yahya Bello, to establish that these crimes that you say, these monies you say he has taken, that there was actually a taking of the money, and that the person who took it was Yahya Bello, and that he took it with the intention to steal. This is where in law we talk about mens rea and actus reus. You cannot focus on this and still be distracted by media, because it involves a lot of tactfulness, investigation, and diligence, due diligence in handling the matter. The minute you resort to the drama of wanting to arrest him to prove a point, like in this case now, how can EFCC, after they submit to the jurisdiction of the court, now be looking for Yahya Bello? Yahya Bello is no longer the property of EFCC now. It's the property of the court. It is the court that will determine what happens to him. But you see, when they keep saying we must arrest him, we must do it, it's creating more of a problem. The most troubling one, my brother, is that statement that says Yahya Bello should be given access through the back door, special man's gate.
Yes.
That special man's gate requires investigation, because if it is proven that that is not consistent with their procedure, then it can give room for compromise.
Perhaps there's a reason why media trial, has been the hallmark of successive administration of the EFCC. There must be a reason why each leader resorts to this, but we don't have enough time to explore that. Let's talk about the economy very quickly. The Tinubu campaign pre-election was strong on the economy, and we've seen this administration take some tough decisions in that regard. The essay to the president on information and strategy recently claimed this administration has attracted more than $20 billion into the economy within its first year. Add to it the trillions saved from fuel subsidy removal. But how do you explain that to the average Nigerian who has to deal with high inflation rates and the hardships these decisions have brought?
Right. So before I go, please permit me to finish my thought on that area of anti-corruption. When you say successive government administrations involved in media trial, that's wrong. I don't want us to tie every imbalance and misbehavior of agencies of government to the executive, like the president.
No. I didn't say successive administration, Mr. Bwala. I'm talking about the successive leadership of the anti-corruption agency. You agree that the idea of media trial has been with us not just in the past year?
I agree. And the reason is because they did not copy correctly the intendment of media trial and or real prosecution from the FBI. There are two approaches. If you are naming and shaming a person and you do not intend to charge the person to court, then you can do all of this media thing, because the whole idea is to disparage his image, probably block him from being appointed or block him from being elected, like the way James Comey did to Hillary Clinton. you know, he went into the media and started talking about allegations against her, which impacted on the voting. At the end of the day, she lost the election by Electoral College. So this is naming and shaming. You are free, you can use media. But if you intend to prosecute, they cannot be connected. You cannot do the two and succeed at the same time. Rule of law is not one for the weak and different one for the rich. It has to be applied to all because nobody is above the law and everybody is equal before the law. So this is the excesses of EFCC in my view, not just in Yaya Bello's case, but in every other high-profile case. That is the reason why we are not seeing conviction. The conviction you're seeing with all these small offenses like Yahoo boys and some of the destruction of Naira or mutilation of Naira is because most of these convictions you are seeing, they are not actually conviction. They get the people to admit. They give them all kinds of promises. We will not prosecute this, admit it. So when they go to court, the people plead guilty. And any president that wants to see whether the commission works or not, when they bring you reports of the successful conviction, ask that they separate between conviction on Yahoo boys and conviction on high-profile cases. You will discover that from 1999 till today, EFCC has not achieved more in terms of prosecuting high-profile cases, which is the main reason why the commission was established. Now, going to the economy, you see, what President Bwala Tinubu is doing as a leader is to reset the economy. And that is to bring about reform. It is never going to be convenient. It's never going to be like food on the table. And President Bwala Tinubu was very frank and has been consistent on that, telling the Nigerian people that this reform will bring a lot of discomfort and hardship, but let us all have the hope in the government and in the reform that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. That is frankness. That is, ask all the economics in the world. They will tell you, reform. I have never seen a reform that comes with convenience. But we are now, the numbers are showing that the reforms are happening. Look at the increased revenue we have through the removal of subsidy that afforded this government the opportunity to redistribute the wealth across the states and the local government. And the states and local government have experienced what I call oil boom in the midst of economic hardship. The reason you ask, why is it that it is not translating on the table of the Nigerian people? I can tell you from my observation, is because while the federal government is making her effort, the state government is not complementing by ensuring that these monies they are experiencing also should be devoted to their people. Politics is local. Everybody comes from a state. But you see that with the increased revenue, less than 20% of the state governors have introduced either reform or intervention or any form of programs that will impact on their people. So everybody now thinks it is still the president and his policies that is not working. And the governors are so powerful. We have had and we still have that defect in our presidential system of government. We are 70% of what happened in the spheres of our lives are influenced by governors, inclusive of even the appointment that the president makes, the ambassadorial position, almost everywhere. The National Assembly has now been serenaded by former governors. So if you look at it from the holistic point of view, you can understand why things are not going in the speed that they are supposed to do. And the president is a Democrat. He will not start fighting governors. He can only plead with them, but the Nigerian people can see what is happening. We have seen increased revenue.
We have run out of time, Mr. Bwala. The question, however, is whether there's a human face and whether this administration is also very sensitive to the plight of the people. Take, for instance, the cybersecurity levy that the CBN directed banks to charge. That's in addition to all of the many charges: stamp duty charge, value-added tax, SMS fee, maintenance, monthly maintenance fee. The list is endless. So you hear the outcry from the people saying, is this government paying attention to how people feel and where the shoe is pinching them? Can you respond to that in just a minute?
The government is paying attention, right? Some of these tax and levies are necessary to generate revenue. In England here, they tax, they put levies. The only difference between England and Nigeria is that when these taxes are collected, it should reflect in the social life and services that is rendered to the Nigerian people. I think that the Nigerian people should focus on how the money is being used rather than criticizing the effort. If you look at this levy, the cybersecurity levy, if you look at the 16 exemption, you will see that this levy is not significantly affecting the poor or significantly affecting every facet of our life. In less than 60 seconds, let me tell you, the exemptions are loan disbursement and repayment. You will not require to pay the levy. Salary payment, you will not. Intrabank transfer between you and your other bank in the same bank, you will not. Interbank transfer between customers of the same bank, you will not. Other financial institutions, interbank placement, bank transfers, and CBN, vice versa. Intrabank transfers within a bank, check clearing and settlement, letters of credit, bank recapitalization, savings and deposit, government social welfare program, non-profit organization, education, paying of school fees and the rest. All of these things are exempted from this levy.
Okay.
So if you look at it critically, where the levy is coming out from is not one that will stifle or kill the masses. I think let us have faith in the government, but focus more on what the money is going to be used for. That, to me, is the most important thing. The president knows the people are suffering, and he keeps pleading with them while he pushes his agenda towards a better Nigeria.
Lawyer and public affairs analyst Bwala, thank you so much for joining us on the program this evening.
Thank you, as always.
And that's our show today. You can watch it all over again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. See you again.